Let's look at a few things together. Stay with me to the end. In 1995, President Bill Clinton shared these remarks. One of the greatest successes of the United States in this century has been the partnership forged by the national government and the private sector to steadily expand the dream of home ownership to all Americans. In 1934, President Roosevelt created the Federal Housing Administration and made home ownership available to millions of Americans who couldn't afford it before that. One of the greatest successes in the century has been the partnership between the national government and the private sector in 1934. To expand the dream of home ownership to all Americans in 1934. Then President Clinton said this: "What we're doing today will allow more homes to be blessed by more families. I hope it will start all these young people on a path that will take them to great joys in their personal lives and perhaps to other homes, but something they will always know that their country wanted them to have because they were entitled to it as part of the American dream." Not everyone was in agreement with President Clinton's thinking on this American dream of home ownership. During one of the congressional hearings addressing the proposed changes in 1995, William A. Niskanen predicted the proposed changes would be very costly to the economy and to the banking system in general. Niskanen believed that the primary long-term effect would be an artificial contraction of the banking system. Niskanen recommended Congress repeal the act. By the way, the Republicans had the majority of both houses of Congress in 1995. Republicans and Democrats working together for our American dream. Fast forward to 2002. Homeownership and President Bush, May 17, 2002. The American Dream Down Payment Assistance Initiative, signed into law by President Bush on December 16, 2003. What was in it? That's a good question. In general, for each fiscal year, the Secretary shall allocate any amounts made available for assistance under this section to each state that is a participating jurisdiction in an amount equal to a percentage of the total allocation that is equal to the percentage of the national total of low-income households residing in rental housing in the state as determined on the basis of the most recent census data compiled by the Bureau of the Census. Amount of assistance. The amount of assistance provided to any low-income families under paragraph 1 shall not exceed the greater of 6% of the purchase price of a single-family housing unit or $10,000. Did you notice which words were repeated again and again in the language of the bill? Low income. Low income. What was the budget for this new and improved American dream? $200 million for the 2004 budget. And in case you're wondering, the Republicans had the majority in Congress. We had also just reached a new milestone. Our national debt had just reached $7 trillion. That's $7 trillion. Then President Bush said this: "We understand that buying a home is a big step, and so these three recommendations we're making, these three changes in the rules will make that step easier, will enable people to make the step to buying a home. They'll be able to do so with more confidence. These are practical ways that we are working to expand home ownership across the country." These three changes in the rules. to expand home ownership across the country. Remember who our new homeowners were going to be? Yep, you got it. Low-income homeowners. Not everyone was in agreement with President Bush's thinking on this American dream of home ownership. Although the promotional materials distributed in support of the bill emphasize that it is intended to benefit low-income households, implicit in the legislation is the requirement that their incomes be sufficient to qualify for a mortgage and be able to meet the monthly payment as well as insurance, taxes, utilities, and repairs. To suggest that individuals and families capable of meeting this standard are not also capable of saving to make their down payment seems absurd. Fast forward to 2008. The Emergency Economic Stabilization Act of 2008 was legislation passed in the wake of the international credit and subprime mortgage crisis that began to make itself known around 2007. The legislation established the Troubled Assets Relief Program, which was created to purchase troubled assets from institutional investors. The legislation was signed into law by President George W. Bush in October 2008. The Democrats had majorities in both houses of Congress in 2008. How much did this cost? The Emergency Economic Stabilization Act sought to restore liquidity to credit markets by authorizing the Secretary of the Treasury to purchase up to $700 billion in mortgage-backed securities and other troubled assets from the country's banks, as well as any other financial instrument the Secretary deemed necessary to promote financial market stability. How much? $700 billion? Wait a minute. "1934, American Dream, Franklin Roosevelt. 1965, American Dream, Lyndon Johnson. 1977, American Dream, Jimmy Carter. 1995, American Dream, Bill Clinton. 2002, American Dream, George W. Bush. 2008, Credit and Mortgage Crisis. But wait, we're not done. For years, owning a home was a symbol of responsibility and a source of security. But the financial crisis in 2008 put all that at risk, and by the time President Obama took office, the housing market was in free fall. This administration immediately took a number of steps to heal the market. Thanks to reforms of the financial system that cracked down on the most reckless practices that led to the housing crisis, responsible Americans can feel more confident and secure when they borrow money to purchase their own home. President Obama's administration took steps to heal the market, thanks to reforms that cracked down on the most reckless practices that led to the housing crisis. Now I really have some questions. Who broke the market? Who is in need of reforms? What practices were the most reckless? Who changed the rules? The banks, the investors, the too big to fail companies? The banks, the investors, and the too big to fail companies were playing by the rules. Who made the rules? Who is in need of reforms? Who broke the market? One of the greatest successes of the United States in this century has been the partnership forged by the national government and the private sector to steadily expand the dream of home ownership to all Americans. One of the greatest successes in this century has been the partnership between the national government and the private sector in 1934, in 1968, in 1977, in 1995, in 2002, in 2008, in 2009, in 2010, 2011, 2012. Partnership? 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 Is there another definition of partnership that I'm not aware of? Or does another word describe this partnership more accurately? Salesmanship, the skill of persuading people to believe, accept, or to agree to something. The ability or effectiveness in presenting persuasively. How long has this partnership for the American dream lasted? To rephrase the question, how long have the sellers in this partnership been trying to sell this American dream? And how long have the buyers in this partnership been trying to follow the rules? What would happen if we chose not to follow the rule of law? Can any individual person, bank, or company just change the rule to their advantage? No. It would be a crime. Does any individual person, bank, or company have an unlimited amount of money to use to their advantage? No. Who can do these things? The same ones who've been changing the rules for the last 80 years and have taxed and spent the United States of America to a national debt of over $18 trillion. That's $18 trillion. Thanks, President Roosevelt. Thanks, President Johnson. Thanks, President Carter. Thanks, President Reagan. Thanks, President Bush. Thanks, President Obama. And thanks to all the Republican and Democratic Congresses who helped achieve this historic milestone. And finally, watch out, health insurance companies. I hope you're too big to fail because the rules, they just keep on changing.